The night my girlfriend graduated was supposed to be the happiest night of our lives. Her family had rented a beautiful hall. Everyone was smiling, cameras were flashing, and the future looked perfect. Then, in the middle of the celebration, her mother walked past me and quietly slipped a folded note into my hand. I thought it was a simple message, but when I opened it, I found just 5 words. Ask her about Daniel tonight. My heart stopped. I had never heard that name before. What I discovered over the next few hours shattered everything I thought I knew about the woman I loved and forced me to make the hardest decision of my life. At my girlfriend's graduation party, her mom slid me a 5-word note I wasn't supposed to read. I still remember the exact moment everything changed. My girlfriend Emma stood on the small stage at her graduation party, wearing a bright smile and holding her degree in the air while everyone cheered. I had been dating her for almost 3 years. 3 years of late-night calls, 3 years of road trips, 3 years of dreaming about a future together. I honestly believed she was the woman I would marry. The party was packed with friends, family, professors, and neighbors. Music filled the room while people laughed and danced. Emma's mother, Linda, was walking around greeting guests. She had always been kind to me, not overly affectionate, but respectful. As Emma posed for photos, Linda approached me. She looked nervous. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then she slipped a small folded note into my hand. "Read it later," she whispered. Before I could ask anything, she walked away. I stared at the folded paper. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. A few minutes later, curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. 5 words. Ask her about Daniel tonight. That was it. No explanation, no signature, no context. Just 5 words. I read them 3 times. Daniel? Who was Daniel? A cousin? An old friend? A classmate? I looked across the room at Emma. She was laughing with her friends. She looked completely normal, completely happy. But suddenly I couldn't stop wondering, why would her mother send me that message? And why secretly? For the next hour, I tried to ignore it. But every time I saw Emma smiling, that name echoed inside my head. Daniel. Daniel, Daniel. Finally, when things calmed down, I pulled Emma aside. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Who is Daniel?" The smile disappeared from her face instantly. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but I knew her. I saw it. For a second, pure panic flashed in her eyes. "Why?" she asked. "Just answer." She crossed her arms. "Where did you hear that name?" My stomach tightened. "Who is he?" She looked away, and that was when I knew something was wrong. "Emma." She stayed silent. "Please." After several seconds, she finally spoke. "He's nobody. Nobody." The most suspicious answer possible. "Then why are you acting like this?" "Because you're making a big deal out of nothing." I could feel frustration building inside me. "Just tell me." She sighed heavily. "Daniel was my fiancé." Felt like someone punched me in the chest. "You're what?" "My fiancé." The room suddenly felt smaller. Louder. Hotter. "You were engaged?" She nodded slowly. "Years ago." I stared at her. In 3 years together, she had never once mentioned being engaged. Not once. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled with tears. Everything stopped. My anger disappeared instantly. "Died?" She nodded again. I didn't know what to say. The story I had imagined in my head suddenly collapsed. "I'm sorry." She wiped her eyes. "His car was hit by a drunk driver 6 months before our wedding." My heart sank. The pain in her voice sounded real, painful, raw, like she was reliving it. "I couldn't talk about it," she whispered. "I understand." But deep down, something still felt incomplete. Why would her mother send that note? Why now? If Daniel was simply a tragic part of Emma's past, why reveal it like this? The conversation ended awkwardly. Emma returned to her guests. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more. Much more. Later that night, I stepped outside for fresh air. The party was still going strong. As I stood alone, I heard someone behind me. "Now you know about Daniel." It was Linda. Emma's mother. I turned around. Yes. She looked disappointed. You know part of it. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? She hesitated, like she was debating whether to continue. Then she sat beside me. Daniel didn't die in an accident. I froze. What? He took his own life. I felt sick. What are you talking about? Tears filled Linda's eyes. He found out something that destroyed him. The air felt heavy. What did he find out? He found out Emma was cheating on him. I couldn't breathe. No. I wish I were lying. Everything inside me screamed to reject it. Emma wasn't perfect. Nobody was. But cheating on a fiancé and hiding it? I shook my head. Why are you telling me this? Because I couldn't watch history repeat itself. My heart pounded. Does Emma know you told me? No. Why? Linda's voice cracked. Because she spent years pretending none of it happened. I stood there speechless. The woman I loved suddenly felt like a stranger, yet part of me still didn't believe it. I needed proof. Not rumors, not accusations. Proof. Linda reached into her purse. Then she handed me an old photograph. It showed Emma and Daniel together. They looked happy, young, in love. On the back was a handwritten note. No secrets. No lies. My chest tightened. Linda then handed me a second item. An old letter. Daniel's final letter. I didn't want to read it, but I did. The words were heartbreaking. He talked about betrayal, broken trust, feeling like his future had disappeared. I sat there in silence. Around the middle of all this chaos, I remember thinking how unbelievable the entire situation felt. Like one of those emotional stories you'd hear on Echo of Tales. Except this wasn't a story. This was my life. When I finally looked up, Linda was crying. I love Daniel like a son, she said. I tried to stop Emma from making those choices. Why tell me now? Because you deserve the truth. I returned inside. Emma immediately noticed something was wrong. What's happened? I looked at her, really looked at her. Did Daniel take his own life because he discovered you were cheating? Her face turned pale. The silence told me everything. Emma? Tears rolled down her cheeks. Yes, the word shattered me. The room around us faded. Laughter. None of it mattered. Only that single word. Yes, she collapsed into a chair. I was young. I couldn't speak. I made horrible mistakes. You lied to me for 3 years. I was ashamed. You let me believe you were completely honest. I wanted a second chance. The pain in her voice was genuine. But so was mine. You should have told me. I know. You should have trusted me with the truth. She covered her face. I've hated myself every day. For the first time, I saw something I'd never noticed before. Not manipulation. Not excuses. Guilt. Years and years of guilt. The kind that never leaves. The kind that follows you into every relationship. Every conversation. Every quiet moment before sleep. We talked for hours after the guests left. She told me everything. The affair, the lies, Daniel discovering the truth, his depression, his death, and the crushing guilt she'd carried ever since. There were moments I wanted to walk away forever. Moments I thought our relationship was over. Maybe it should have been. But life isn't always that simple. People are complicated. They break things. Sometimes they break themselves too. The question wasn't whether Emma had done something terrible. She had. The question was whether people could truly change. I spent weeks thinking about it. Weeks questioning everything. Eventually, I realized something. The Emma standing before me wasn't the same selfish girl who had betrayed Daniel years ago. The guilt had transformed her. The tragedy had transformed her. The woman I knew had spent years trying to become someone better. Not because she wanted forgiveness, but because she believed she didn't deserve it. One evening, nearly a month later, I met Linda for coffee. She looked nervous. "Are you angry with me?" she asked. I thought about it, then I shook my head. No, I know I caused pain. You revealed the truth. She looked relieved. Thank you. I smiled sadly. The truth hurts. Yes, but lies hurt longer. Later, I sat with Emma by the lake where we had our first date. The sun was setting. The water reflected gold and orange light. Beautiful. Peaceful. Nothing like the storm we'd survived. Do you hate me? She asked quietly. I took a long breath. No. Why? Because hate is easy. Tears filled her eyes. I don't deserve your kindness. Maybe not. She looked down. But everyone deserves the chance to become better than their worst mistake. She cried harder than I'd ever seen before. Not because everything was fixed. Not because everything was forgiven. But because someone finally believed she could be more than the worst thing she'd ever done. Today, years later, that graduation party remains one of the most painful nights of my life. 5 words on a tiny piece of paper changed everything. They destroyed an illusion, but they also revealed the truth, and sometimes truth is the only foundation strong enough to build a future on. If there's one lesson I learned, it's this. Secrets don't disappear because we hide them. They grow, they wait, and eventually they demand to be seen. But when the truth finally comes out, it also gives us something powerful. To walk away, to forgive, or to become someone stronger than we were before. And sometimes, the hardest truths lead to the most meaningful beginnings.